Hi everybody, today we're going to talk about hosting your site. And what I mean by hosting your site is how you take the pages that you've been working on so far and put them up on the internet for everyone else to see them. In order to host your site, you need two things. You need first a domain name. That's the name that people look at in your URL. The second thing you need is a hosting company, usually called a hosting service. And they are going to be the ones who act as the server for your files to let other people see them. So first, let's talk about domain names. Usually when you go to buy a domain name, you're going to purchase it for multiple years at a time because it really doesn't make that much sense to own your domain name for only a single year, unless of course maybe you're running for an election or doing something where you know you only want it up for a short time. The most common domain names have the domain ending of .com, but more and more the other extensions are gaining acceptance. So if you go to buy a domain name and the only way you can get the name you really want is to use .net or .biz, that's okay. I recommend that you still go ahead and do it. The important thing to know is that domain names by themselves, they're really pretty much completely useless. You can own it, but unless you have files there that people can look at, no one's going to be able to go there and see anything. So this is where the hosting services come in. So if you were to look at your URL right now on your page, when you make a file and you right-click and you're looking at your site in Chrome or Internet Explorer or anything like that, you're probably going to notice that the protocol is file. We don't want that. We don't want it to be file or C:, or My Documents. We want it to be something that looks like www, and that's where the hosting company comes in. So what you need is a registered IP address to connect your domain name with the Internet. So hosting services are going to vary. They go from free to what I call mid-range to really full service. And so you need to decide what kind of hosting service best fits you. To be honest, I usually recommend free when you're getting started and then make your way up. But let's talk about the pros and cons of each one. So with free services, you really have little or no control over your domain name. So if you go and look at some other people's, particularly from your school, your work, things where people are not really there just for the domain name, is you're going to see things like wix.whatever, and then your name. You're going to have really limited tools. Sometimes when you pay for a site, you're going to be able to have email registration, different things like that. Free services don't really want to give you too much freedom because they're a little worried about what you're going to do. Probably the worst part about free services is that there's a lot of advertising and redirects. If somebody goes to your site and makes the smallest little typo, rather than getting a nice friendly warning, they're probably going to be redirected to somebody trying to sell something. The nice part about free services is that they have a very familiar look and feel across all of them. If you sign up for one service and learn how to do your hosting on it, you can pretty much rest assured that you're going to be able to manipulate your files on any other free service as well. So let's talk about paid services, both the mid-range and the full. With paid services, you tend to have much better tools for manipulating your code. It's not just about putting your files up on the web. You can do things like have email filters, send out special what we call cron jobs. Cron jobs are different files that you can run at different times of the day. So if you want to have a database, you want to have a list server, you want to have emails, then you might want to pay for the paid services. The other really nice thing about paid services is that there's technical support available to you. So you can go ahead and email, chat, anything you need. You're not going to find that with the free services, or it just won't be quite as good. But before you go for the paid services, I really recommend that you check for free services through work or school as well. A lot of time these free services still have the really great tools and the support, but you just don't have to pay for them. So if in the end you're not quite sure what you want to do, if you want to go with free or paid, I know it can be overwhelming when you decide what you're going to do. So I've simply recommended one site that I know a lot of my students use, and that's ByteHost. You'd go ahead and go to this URL, bytehost.com. Notice that it's BEYTHOST.com. Once you get signed up, you're going to want to make sure that you remember the password that you type in, because they're not going to mail it back to you. And if you can't remember it, it's really going to lead to a lot of problems. In fact, you'll probably end up giving up and signing up for another account. Once you've done that and you've filled it out, you're probably going to need to check your spam, because in that spam, they're going to send you an email that tells you all the details that you're going to need in order to connect through either cPanel or some other type of FTP device. So I hope you're excited, and I hope you're going to take that next step and that you want to go and post your work out on the web. Good luck. Hi, this video is going to be a quick tutorial on the cPanel interface for managing your site. Let's go ahead and say that you've gotten a job or you have homework assignment and someone says, hey, I want you to go ahead and put your site up on the web. Many people's first reaction is, great, how do I do that? So one of the most common ways is to use the cPanel interface. In order to use it, what you need to do is have the URL for your cPanel account or your web hosting account. So if you have a domain name such as introwebdesign.com or yourname.com, when you created your account and you got your domain name and hosting service, they should have sent you an email that says what your URL is. So usually your domain name followed by /cPanel is where you need to go. Once you go there, you come to a nice login where you can access your different files. And I'm going to show you in real time in just a few minutes. So what a file manager does is that it's a way for you to upload or download your files. This means you take them from your computer and you put them up onto the web. So regardless of the kind of cPanel configuration you have, one of the first things you want to learn how to do is figure out how to find the file manager. From the file manager, you're going to look for a special folder called public_HTML, or in some cases just public, or they may have dropped the HTML. But the important thing is that you want to find the word public. Your public HTML folder is going to have a lot of different files, some that you want people to see and some that you don't. I mean, if you think about it, when you go to Amazon or other different sites, there are certain pages they want you to be able to access, but there are many more important confidential files that you should not be able to get to. So uploading files to your public HTML folder makes them viewable to the public. So let's say that we're at my website and I decide I want to upload a new file. In fact, here's the file right here. It's a pretty simple one. It's not even a full file, and it is just a file with 2 images of my dog. Okay, so I would go here and I would go to my URL and I would add on cPanel. What should pop up from here is a username and place for me to enter my password. Now, if you're not sure what your username and password are, just make sure to go back to the email that your hosting service sent to you. They'll tell you what it is. So once I log in, you tend to have a fairly familiar site set up when you're using cPanel. Now, different cPanel accounts are going to have different software that you can use, but the one thing that they will all have is something called the file manager. So head down here, and I find the file manager. There's going to be lots of different options. I usually just go with the default or find where it says public_HTML. All right, so when I log in, everyone's is going to look different because it depends on what files you've already uploaded. For many of you, the first time you go in, you will only see the CGI bin folder. Go ahead and leave that alone. So I want to upload my file over here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Upload, choose File, and I'm going to pick, oops, it's right up here. Sorry, images, short.html. Here we go. All right, as you can see down in the corner, it's showing that it should be uploading correctly. So go over here, and I want to check and make sure it's there. Oh, it didn't work. And now we want to think about why that didn't work. Okay, so I have here some issues that may have gone on along with the one I already showed you. And that is, wait, why can't I see my file? Well, there are 3 main reasons. The first might be that you typed in the wrong URL. So go back and check that out again. Did I make sure to type in the right file name? Maybe I forgot and I had an S or something else down there. Second, when you uploaded the file, the transfer didn't work. So many times when you're uploading, you want to make sure that there weren't any error messages on the cPanel. The final one, which we'll show you right here, is that when you uploaded the file, it did not have what we call read access. And this happens a lot when you're dealing with images. What this means is that your computer said, oh sure, I'll put this file on your site, but I'm not going to let anybody else see it. So what we need to do is we need to go in and we need to change the permissions for that image. And I can show you how to do it right now. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to look at the code that was uploaded to the server. So I'm going to go ahead and I did a right click, and I'm going to do View Page Source. And you can see that it says the pictures that it's looking for are both called Bacon, and they're inside an Images folder. Oh, well that's where my first mistake was. Let's go back over here, and you can see, oh great, I'm going to reload it. Here's that file, HTML file uploaded. I completely forgot to upload the images that go with the HTML file. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder, call it Images, and I'm going to upload it. And from there, I am going to upload the picture. Great. So let's go over and check and see how we're doing. Oops, that's not the right one. I'm going to refresh it. Oh great, look, it worked for one of my files, but not the other. So let's look at that source code one more time. And you can see that I put in an intentional mistake. When you're working locally, when you're creating files on your C drive or your desktop, your browser is very nice. It's kind of like the helicopter parenting of browsers. And it'll say, oh, I know what she meant. So here, I put the wrong file extension. I used capital JPG instead of lowercase. So while it was great for then, that's not so great now. So what I want to do is I want to go back over here, go up one folder. I'm going to what we call work on this here, code editor, and I'm going to change this to JPEG. Let's see how it goes. Great, now our pictures are working. So what you may notice is that I went in and I changed my file it was on the server. There are two different ways to change your files. One is you can edit your files via cPanel. But I don't normally do that. Instead, what I like to do is I like to work locally, which means I only change my files when they're on my laptop or my desktop. The reason that I don't like to make changes on cPanel is that, first of all, the changes are immediately public. So if you put in a typo or something you didn't mean to have, it's out there and you can't really fix it. Secondly, there's less opportunity to test and debug. So sometimes during my lectures, I may show you that I'm working on files on cPanel, but I really avoid doing that. So at some point, you are more than likely to be using cPanel to upload files to your server. Different versions of cPanels are going to offer different tools depending on if you're using a paid or a free site. Even among paid sites, there are many different variations. One of the things that you should do if you're interested in becoming more of an administrator is look into the different administrative tools that cPanel often offers. There are emails accounts, database management, and cron jobs. Cron jobs are one of my favorite because I teach all my freshmen how to have their email automatically sent to their mothers at 9 a.m. saying they're studying hard. An alternative to using cPanel is to use something such as SFTP to transfer files or other file transfer protocols. But the important thing to do is to learn that when you're using cPanel, you're going to make little mistakes and little things aren't going to work. The important thing to do is to relax, go in, and follow the 3 steps I mentioned. Make sure you uploaded the file, make sure you don't have any typos, and make sure that you have the permissions set to the way they need to be. If you do that, you should be fine. One way that you can share your web page with everyone is by hosting it on GitHub. So the first step is making a GitHub Pages account. So I'm going to go in here and pick a username. As I type it in, it's going to let me know if somebody already has that one or not. So here we go. I've created Web Designer for everyone. Make sure that whatever username you pick makes sense because this is going to be part of the URL for your site. So pick something simple, not a lot of upper or lowercase, and something that really kind of describes why you're building your site. Go ahead and put in an email. And a password. Okay? Once you've logged in, what you want to do is you want to create your account. So when you click on create an account, what's going to happen is that they're going to send you, well, first you have to decide what kind of plan you want. We're going to go with the free plan. We don't need anything special, and you don't really need to probably get updates from GitHub News or anything like that. We're just going to hit continue. All right, again, no need to share any type of special information about yourself. I'm just going to go ahead and click on, well, skip this step, I guess, because I didn't add anything. And now we can go ahead and get started. The first thing we need to do is we need to create something called a repository. And a repository is a place where you put your code on the web. Think of it like making a folder on your desktop. Maybe you've made a folder called HTML where you've been putting all your files. This is the name of the folder that we're going to put up on the web. So this is very important that you follow the rules very exactly. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the very top corner and you'll see a plus. When you click on the plus, there's something that says New Repository. And this is the point where it's going to stop and ask you to verify your email address. I'm going to go ahead and do that now.
3, 2.
Once you verify your email, it should bring you back to this page. So I'm going to try clicking on the plus again and saying New Repository. All right. This is where it's very important. This repository name has to be the same as your account name. So in my case, it's Web Designer for Everyone .github.io. In my description, I can go ahead and put something like the website for web design for everyone. And the second thing you really want to make sure you do is click on this little button down here that says initialize this repository with the README. Okay, that's it. I'm going to click create. And it takes sometimes a few seconds just to make me kind of see, everyone can see that README that I clicked on, that I created, it automatically generated a site called Web Designer for Everyone. Oops. .github.io. Oh, I messed up. I need to rename this because it was supposed to be oh, actually, I was wrong. It is Web Designer for Everyone. I typed my account name wrong. We're all good. As long as this part right here, it has to match the name of your account up here. All right. So now it's time to check to see if I have made a live website for everyone to see. So I'm going to copy this link right here. webdesignerforeveryone.github.io. I'm going to copy it. And I am going to see what happens if we go here. And look, I actually have a website that's live to everyone. I didn't have to pay for anything. I didn't have to sign up for anything. And GitHub Pages is generally accepted by everyone as a fairly secure place to put your code. Now, I haven't put any real code yet, and I'm going to cover that in a separate video because I want to keep the two ideas separate. Creating your GitHub account, which you only have to do once, and then uploading your code to GitHub, which you'll have to do multiple times. Now, just a few notes. Take a few seconds between each step that I covered here. GitHub can get very busy, and sometimes it might take a few minutes for something to happen between you clicking OK or accept or upload. But hopefully, from here, you won't have too much problems. In the readings, I'll include links to other places you can look for help in creating your GitHub Pages account. So let's say you've come up with a pretty nice site. In fact, I've got one right here. I'm going to click on my index.html file, and I've got some images in it. I have a special file called CSS that you might not be familiar with yet, but that's okay. But let's just see what my site looks like. Here we go. Here's just a little page I made about me with a little bit of formatting. But if you check and you kind of look in the upper corner, you can see that this site is not live. The fact that it says file : forward, I can't share it with other people live. I can email them my code. I could say to somebody, oh, look, I made a web page. And then I could send them this file and all the images and everything like that. But that's kind of a pain. So let's try to make this site go live on my GitHub Pages account. So go back here to my GitHub account, which if you haven't created yet, that's okay. I've got another video. Go create your account and come back here and meet up with us. But other than that, I'm going to make my first kind of live account. Once again, I'm going to go up and do a plus for a new repository. Basically consider it a new folder full of code. Last time I needed to be very careful with my repository name. Not this time. I'm just going to call this one, let's say, sample. SAMPLE. I try very hard to keep it to all lowercase. You can include the little like dash, but no special characters. So I'm just going to leave it as sample. Very important, I'm going to click on initialize this repository with a README. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on create repository. So GitHub right now is creating a new site for me to upload my code. Now, people who use GitHub for, I'm going to say, like real, are actually doing a lot of things from command lines, and they have to memorize a lot of stuff. We're not doing that. We're just using GitHub Pages to host our code. So let's click on Upload Files. Now, here's a tricky part. If I were to click on Choose Your Files, I could do that, and I could kind of go through and pick, well, I need this file and that one, but it won't let me upload entire folders. See, if I click on CSS and I click on Open, it's like, oh, is this the file you want? And I don't want this. I want everything, not just files. So I clicked on Add. What I'm going to do is go over here, and I'm just going to go back up one. And I'm just going to drag this whole folder over all at once. And this is going to let me upload as many files as I want. The next mistake I make all the time is that I forget to go all the way down to the bottom and say commit changes. All right. So this is the first step out of 2 steps of making your site go live. The first step is just to upload your files. Again, this may take a few minutes to complete. So while that's going on, I'm going to go up. Oh, there we go, done. I'm going to go up. So what I'm going to click on now is I'm going to go up and click on Settings. All right. Now, what I need to do is I need to say, hey, if somebody wants to see my site, I don't want them to see my code. I want them to see my actual page. So I'm going to go back down here, and I'm going to scroll down. Sorry, figure out how to scroll down on this mouse. And what I'm looking for is a site that says GitHub Pages. Go to None and choose Master Branch and save. All right. You never really know if it worked or not. So I'm going to go back down again, click over here and go back down. And if I go down to GitHub Pages, it will now tell me, hey, your code is now right here. So I'm going to click on this. And it's not uncommon for it to say, hey, you don't have anything yet, or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my code and say, okay, what was the name of that folder I dragged up? Oh, it was Sampler. Okay. And what was the name of my file? Hopefully, it was index.html, and it is. Great. I'm going to go right here. And now, when I click, I got a 404 error. Don't worry, that's going to happen a lot. First thing to check is, did you put in a typo? Yes, I did. I wrote sample instead of sampler. So let's put that R in there. Now I'm going to hit enter, and there's my site. All right, so what you can do, the 2 steps for creating this GitHub account is to upload your file and then change that kind of link for GitHub Pages to turn it on. Once you do that, you can upload as many things as you want. I am going to do one more thing with you real quick though. I'm going to go back to my GitHub account. And I'm going to do this one more time, but slightly different. All right, oops. I want to go to github.com. I'm going to make one more repository. I'm going to call this one Sample 2. And this time I'm going to forget, and I'm not going to click on this README. I'm going to click on the repository. Oh, well, now there's no place for me to click on that upload files, and you feel kind of stuck. If you forget, just scroll right up to the README link on the page, and you click on it, and it automatically creates the README. I'm going to go down. Just so you know, commit new file is the equivalent of save files for what we do on our desktop. So now I can upload files. I'm going to do it one more time to show you another, probably easier way. I'm going to go back here. Before, I dragged the entire sampler folder. This time, I'm just going to grab here. They're all uploading. I'm going to click on Commit Changes. While this is happening, I want you to think, all right, what was that second step? What was that next step she said I had to do? And that step is to go into Settings and add the GitHub Pages. So let's go up to Settings. Oh, it's going to, right here. Scroll down. Add Master Branch and save. And then since I want to be a little lazy, I'm just going to scroll down here again and be like, oh, great, here's the link to my site. I'm going to click on it. Again, when you get the 404 error, there's usually two reasons. Either you spelled something wrong, which isn't the case here because we clicked on it. We didn't type anything in. Or you need to give GitHub a few more minutes to upload everything. Or the third one is sometimes, I'm not, to be honest, exactly sure why, but sometimes GitHub seems to almost forget to look for the index.html file. So I'll hit enter, and there we go. So GitHub Pages is a great free way for you to host your code and share it with everyone who you think will be impressed with your incredible work. Hi, in today's lecture, we're going to talk about SFTP, which stands for Secure File Transfer Protocol. What this is, it's a fast way for you to move your files that you've been creating out onto the web. So secure file transfer is just really a common way of moving files from your computer off to either someone else's computer, off to your server, or even up to some other computer that's within your business. People use the terms FTP and SFTP interchangeably. What's important for you to know is that the S stands for secure. So a lot of times people are going to require that you use the SFTP protocol instead of the FTP protocol. So when I say the word protocol, hopefully in your mind that's causing a little bit of a flashback into our early lectures when we talked about how browsers interact with the files that are sent to them. So with HTTP or HTTPS, your browser knows, oh, here's a file that she wants me to display. I should ignore all the tags and go ahead and put up a nice site for them. In the same way, you may have seen that there's a file protocol, which works pretty much the same way and says they've been making a web page and it's been existing on their computer. With SFTP or FTP, what is going on is the browser is being told, don't display these files. We actually want you to transfer them from one computer to another. What's also really nice about most FTP or SFTP software programs is that they let you drag and drop the files instead of uploading them one at a time. So let's say that you're ready to go ahead and do secure file transfer. There's a few things that you're going to need. The first is you're going to need what we call an FTP client. What this is a software that you will use to connect between the different machines. If you're using a PC, a common software program is WinSCP. If you're using a Mac, many people use Fugu or CyberDuck. No matter which one of these three programs you want to use, they're all free for download. Once you have your client, you need to go back and find out what the FTP address for your host is. When you signed up for a hosting service, they probably sent you an email that was full of information that you didn't really understand. It's time for you to finally dive into that email and start using the information. So let's go ahead and do it together. So here's the email that my hosting service sent to me with all the information I was going to need to connect to my site. Now, if you look, I have different things such as my account details and the site administration that tells me how I can connect if I was going to use something called cPanel. But since I'm using FTP, or in my case SFTP, what I need to know is the address, the port, and then there's also my username and my password. In many cases, they don't specify a port, but my particular hosting service did. So let's go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to log on with CyberDuck. Now, as many of you bring up CyberDuck, some of you may end up having a picture or a little graphic very similar to mine. If nothing showed up, what I want you to do is go up to the top, and you should have a file. And this is true if you're using WinSCP or Fugu instead. And you're going to want to go to Open Connection, and that's what brought me up here. So when I click on Open Connection, one of the first things you need to decide is whether you're going to be using FTP or SFTP. Next, you need to put in your server, and if you need to, your port. Finally, go ahead and put in your username and password. Hopefully, you've remembered all that information and the connection's going to pop up for you. Don't be surprised if you forgot once or twice what that connection is and if it pops up a warning. All right, once your window pops up, you're going to see that you have a few different folders. These different folders contain different information that your hosting service may or may not want to be shared. So for instance, think about any website that you go to, such as Facebook, Amazon. What's going on is that there are a lot of files that are going into building these sites, but they only want you to be able to see some of them. And those files that they want you to see, they need to reside in the public HTML folder. So when I go in here, what I want to just warn you about is that when I click on the public HTML folder and you click on it, it's going to look very different. The reason for that is that I've already uploaded a lot of files, and for you, it's most likely that the only file that's in there is something called CGI bin, and you want to just pretty much leave that one alone. Now, what you want to do next is start dragging and dropping some of the files that you want to see. So let's go ahead and look at a site that I can use as an example. I'm going to go ahead and bring this open. And it's just a little site I have about Ashtabula. It's got a picture and a couple maps on it. And if I go to the intro website, you can see that it doesn't exist there. There's nothing there. We get a 404, which means, hey, you asked for this file and it doesn't exist. So let's go ahead and move those files over using CyberDuck. So all the code I want to upload is over here. It's in a folder called Ashtabula. With many other services, I would need to go in and upload each file one by one. But instead, I'm going to drag this entire folder over and drop it in. By the way, when you drop it in, make sure you're dropping it in right into public HTML, not into a subfolder if you have one, not into CGI bin. Great, so there's Ashtabula. Let's try reloading my folder, and you can see that I come very close to success. I've got the two maps, but the top picture is missing. Instead, all we see is the alt text. It's basically saying, I can't find that picture. So let's take a look and see what it's supposed to be looking at. I'm going to go to right-click, Inspect Element, and you can see it says, hey, I cannot find this picture down here. You're asking me to upload something called harborjty.jpg. I don't know what that is. All right, let's check out CyberDuck. Here's Ashtabula, here's images, and you can see, oh, but the picture's right there. But if you look really closely, you can see I used lowercase h over here and an uppercase h over here. I need to change the code. There are two ways you can do that. You can either edit it right within here, or you can change it on your computer and drag it up again. Let's go ahead and just edit it right here. Oops. Actually, let's not, because that's the picture. What I really want to edit is the HTML file. I'm glad I made that mistake. Keeps you from making it yourself. So I'm going to change this lowercase h to an uppercase H, save it, and let's try reloading. Boom. Success. We've got the file just as we wanted it. Now, anytime that you change a file, you're going to have to remember that any changes you make, you need to drag and drop back up. All right? So that's one of the main reasons people have trouble with FTP is that they forget what they've uploaded and what they haven't. That's why I really like the ability to drag an entire folder over one at a time, as well as individual files. Let's go ahead and review just a little bit. You can upload your files many ways. You can use cPanel, you can use Fugu, you can use CyberDuck, you can use WinSCP. There isn't a single right way to do it. But the most important thing is before you can go ahead and use any of these software tools, it's important for you to know your login information. So hold on to that email when your hosting service sends it to you. You'll be really glad you did. Good luck.